Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 61 of Run to the Hills, sponsored by Chia Charge. You may notice I'm talking a little bit quickly because Gary has enormous internet issues and it keeps going out. Poor Gary, you can imagine the stress and the sweat. And we're a little bit on time faults today because it's that wonderful time of the year, the 2-week winter half term. And I'm like, Gary, I've got half an hour. I reckon the kids can be quiet for half an hour. Let's go. And his internet's gone down.
Oh, it's quite stressful. That speed of sweat is coming down.
He's just said to me, as if we're in some sort of World War II war drama, Eddie, if we pull this off, it'll be a miracle.
And I've drank all my tea. God damn it.
I drank all my tea too. We're going to get the salmon lips again. Anyway, let's calm down. This week, we talked to Sarah Cameron, who is also another athlete based in France. We talk all about her journey into ultra running. We talk things coaching. We talk things women in sport. She's an absolute nugget of font of knowledge, and what a positive person to be around.
Super positive.
She's had her trials and tribulations and is still going through them. So really lovely chat with Sarah, and what a ray of sunshine on actually today in the Alps is a little bit drizzly and grey.
Drizzle, yeah. Drizzle in the UK too.
How you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks.
You need a buff to sort of wipe the sweat off.
Yeah, no, it's like just a shiny head. It's not a good look. Don't go to YouTube, please.
Shiny today. I think it was trying to share the Google Doc.
That was really stressful. I'm still waiting for it all to disappear in front of my eyes. But last week I said I wanted to get back a bit more control, so I was going to ease off the YouTube. Well, I did my 3 strength sessions, which was the big kind of pain point in my week. But if anyone follows me on Strava, I left it until the last minute. I think Sunday night. Well, I think the last one was like maybe Sunday at 8 o'clock at night, so it wasn't great.
Oh, bless you. That's great. That's amazing commitment.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It doesn't really matter when you do, but you just got to fit these things in. We've got busy lives, social and family commitments and work. So
social.
I am very social. Well, talking about social, I had a good day on the moors too. It was really good out and back. Went from Saltburn, pretty much the almost 110 or 60 route from Saltburn to Rosebery Topping and back. And it was very windy, but we hunkered down at the top of Rosebery Topping and scoffed a little nice little slab of flapjack, and then made our way back to Saltburn and had a really lovely Scotch egg, butternut squash Scotch egg in Saltburn. Is that some kind of alliteration? Was that what it is?
Never heard of such a thing. A butternut squash Scotch egg.
It was really nice. Little cafe called, what was it called? It's called Taste, actually, and it's dog friendly. So for all your dog walkers in Saltburn, head over to there. But I think with the late strength session, and it was probably out 4 hours on Sunday, I'm feeling pooped. Eddie is
I think that's a good word to describe us both today, isn't it? I've got a slight gravelly tinge to the voice. I just had a shower because it was 4 days, and I was like, if Mummy doesn't go and get a shower now, she's gonna lose it. Leave me alone. And you get mummy, but mummy. No sentence starts with but. No sentence, but mummy. You know, mummy. You know what I'm saying? Oh my life.
It's tough. It's tough at
the top. I've had a little bit. Last week was tough. I had a lot of sessions last week and not a lot of sleep and a lot of work. And you get that slight anxiety on your chest where so much to remember, so many balls you're juggling. I had that slightly, so I just backed off a bit the last few days on the running because I was like, it's getting a bit of a. I'm out running for the sake of running, which I hate doing because I feel like there's no good in this. This is just you putting miles in, which has its time and place, doesn't it? But also it's like, it's just when there's so much, you've got to balance that stresses, haven't you, in your life? When you've got a lot on something else, you're not going to get a lot out from doing. If you do a hard session, then there can't be anything else going on. You can't do the mix, can you? I did a really hard, probably, I don't think it was meant to be that hard, but I did do it quite hard. So it was hills and then into like this flat tempo. The tempo wasn't very impressive. I think the GPS is a bit wrong around here, Gary.
Very kind to you.
I'm sure.
Those mountains.
I'm running like that sort of speed. You know, when people like what is like tempo? How do you run like what's that sort of like that good quality hard running, but that you can maintain? How do you describe it? Well, I kind of describe it in that like you have snot coming out your nose, your eyes are probably watering a bit. You don't really want to say hello to anybody because all you can do is just run. That's how you can. And there's a sort of noise of general moisture and groaning, but you can keep it going. You can probably run like that for an hour, but it's like there's nothing else that can go on. And really, you can't think about anything else either. And everybody annoys you if they're in your way or you have to move just slightly off the path. I did a bit of running. I love a bit of running like that. And I was allowed to change my trainers into road trainers. Oh my God, the bliss.
Oh.
The bliss, because I wear trail trainers all the time because I don't run on road at all. 400 meters to get on the trail from my house. And when you put on road trainers, you realize the dreaminess of a spring and comfort. Oh my God. So I actually read, I think was it Eleanor, wasn't it? When we talked to Eleanor Davis, she puts road trainers on to run like her recovery runs and stuff, even on the trail to get more cushion and spring. So I've tried that a few times. It's lovely, but it's a bit dodge. Not a lot. It
depends on the trail, doesn't it? The trails that
my trails are proper. It's not, you know, a path, it's rocks, most of the.
You know, I love on a trail race when it's funny because we all love the trails. You know, a lot of people moan about the tarmac, but when you're on a trail race and you just hit a bit of tarmac, it's like, wow.
I always feel really guilty. I feel like I'm cheating on my boyfriend when I get on a bit of flat and I'm like, oh my God, I love this. I love this. And I'm like, you can't love this. You're a trail runner, but it's just, and your brain can just switch off.
Yeah,
and you can just be like, oh, and then you look and you go, oh my God, that was a kilometer in more than 15 minutes.
It's fantastic. So how's your legs though? I saw a leg explosion.
Oh, I've not done that for quite a while. And I think it was totally my own fault because I have lots of little sessions to do to sort of like prime the legs and keep the legs moving. And I'd sort of crammed them all into the front end of the week, knowing that the kids are going to have time. So why? Who would do that? Who does that? When my athletes do that, it drives, I'm like, oh,
yeah.
Anyway, so I thought, the one I just did when the flat in the hills, when the last 10 minutes, I haven't felt like literally I turned to go, I was like, right, my last 10 minutes is going to be uphill because, you know, I'm a sucker for the pain. I don't want this easy. I want it hard. And I turned to go and literally my hamstrings went like,
don't like this.
I just relax, just keep it. And I was like pushing and I was like, there's no speed there, just the load.
Yeah.
And it was good. It was good. So I don't often get to that stage in training because I feel being older and being so busy with the kids and everything, just don't get the recovery from that. That really knocks me out. But I did enjoy that. But it has, like you said, that long day took it out of you. That has. Yeah. I needed a few days, but I feel back on it today. This morning I did 8 by 30 seconds, which is one of my favorites. I just love a power hill. I put on a bit of Rocky.
Great.
And I just get in my vest and I just go flat out and you get to the top 30. It's amazing. You get to the top and you're literally like, I'm going to vomit. Yeah. And you turn, you come back down. Then by the bottom, you're like recovered again. Yeah. And you go again. Dogs hate it.
The strides and the 30 seconds, they're a great work because they are a legit workout, but you're not like tonight for me is a big one. I'm really just don't find. I think I might put it off to tomorrow. I'm a bit snivelly after Sunday.
I put mine off to tomorrow too. I was like, I'm just going to do the 8:30s. That'll be my thing.
But it's a workout, but you're not destroyed afterwards.
And as ultra runners, it's so nice. I thought this morning, it's like so nice that your session's done in 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And as soon as you start, you're almost finished, where so many of our sessions are like, well, I'll see you in an hour and a half. And it's such a long time for your mental focus. But I think they're really good. And they're a hidden bit of strength work.
Definitely.
because
100%.
you are really working all those muscles, and it's a really good way to feel what doesn't work, because there's no hiding. You can't have one glute springing up. You probably do, and then you'll notice it and you'll be like, yeah, I've got to make sure that knee lift's the same.
I've started doing on my exercise, talking about glutes, on my strength routine, instead of doing a glute bridge, I do single leg bridges.
Very good.
And I notice one is a lot weaker than the other.
Yeah.
So it's good.
Do you do the marching as well? That's another good one to do before the single leg. Just go into the shoulder bridge and then just march, because that's a good way to just wake up both the glutes and then go into the single leg.
Oh yeah, bit of free coaching there. How's the mice anyway? Any mice update?
Oh my God, last night I had a late night, kids. He was so fed up of me whining, but I went to get my sweet potato out of the vegetable rack, and as I pulled the drawer out, I heard tick, tick, tick,
oh my goodness!
On my husband. I was like, "Oh, you
don't like it.
Pissed all over my potato." I was just going to bung that in the microwave, bit of hummus, bit of salad, done. I was like, you. It was like 20 to 10 at night. I was like, you. So honestly, so I had to pull out, I had to chuck away all the onions and the potatoes and pull it out. I was, oh my God, I'm done. Sorry is going to get it today. The poison's gone down.
No.
He is no more. But he was quite cute. They're only tiny. They're like these little field mice. Yeah, but the mess they make. Right, let's get on to the results. We're on an adrenaline high today. Backyard Ultra, did you follow this in the last few laps?
No, I didn't see any of it until it.
Oh, well, I saw it sort of flashes up the last few laps, and it was deemed the World Championship, wasn't it? Of the back, it was the real Madeira. The Big Doug's Backyard Ultra, running 4.16 miles every hour on the hour, and they went for 85 straight hours.
Bonkers.
Won by Harvey Lewis, who's an American international 24-hour runner, meaning he covered 354 freaking miles. Oh, can you imagine? And then I saw he put, it's quite good. I finished a day earlier than I thought it would, because I can go back to work now. Oh my God. Oh my life. Training with no sleep. You must have if you have any sleep, it'll be like 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's some going, that is. It's quite amazing. But that really does, was it 81 hours, I think, the previous record. So it's a good, and like we said, when we had Sarah on the show, you really need two people to rock up to get a record.
Yeah, so there was Chris, I'm afraid I can't remember his surname, so he got to 84, and then you have to do the last lap, don't you? We understand all about it now that Sarah's told us about it. What I can't get my head around is just like how you get your brain to function after that long. Yeah. Whether you just become an absolute sort of robot. And then the other thing is the recovery. Like, how do you then even get yourself home?
Yeah. But as a plant-based athlete, I know a lot of people think they can't get the protein they need and having kind of like a restricted diet. But there you go, he's crushing.
Wonder what he eats for his recovery. Might send him a message, see if we can get him on the show.
Yes, that'd be wicked. Next up, the Punk Panther. I think it was the Nidderdale Way, wasn't it? There's a few different distances, but we'll focus on the full loop. And Casper Kars Sebastian took the win in 8 hours and 57 minutes. He's busy again, isn't he? Now, it says it's a new course record. No, I don't know, Eddie, you might know more about this. I saw in the results, they class it as an FKT. I don't know if a race can be an FKT.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know. Could be completely wrong there. Yeah.
I don't know. Someone tell us.
I'm not too sure I've heard that. I do listen to the FKT podcast, so maybe that's where I've picked that up, but I could be completely wrong. But Amanda Carter took the win for the ladies too in 11 hours and 41 minutes. So yeah, some great running there. But they have a double lap, a lap and a half a lap. So
how complicated.
Yeah, very, very tricky admin.
Then we had the Southend, the beer marathon that we talked about last week. I saw a video actually of the checkpoint. It's a bit windy. Toby Draper won it in 2 hours 47. Whoa, pretty quick. Amanda Butler in 3 hours 59. Awesome. Still don't want to do that. No. I'd go and run Backyard Ultra over that.
Yeah, I think I do fancy it. I do like the sound of that. But then, up in Scotland, there was the Ultra Scotland 100 mile. Now, they had to call the race off because of severe weather warnings, up to 60 mile an hour on the tops. And I think that was the forecast. What the reality was, I don't know. But yeah, I know on many a Bob Graham round recce and my failed attempt at the Bob Graham round that it's not great being up there when your winds are 60 miles an hour and upwards.
Terrifying. And it's so cold.
Yeah. So a big call by Wayne, the race director, but I think everybody, especially this time of year with the wind chill factor and this and that, it was definitely the right call.
And I think the more race directors do that and make the call and stand by their decision, the more confidence perhaps other race directors will have to do that. And people will just be, that's just the way it is, that if there's temperature or weather warnings or even the worry about it, then people have to accept it.
Yeah, you don't want to become a badge of honor that you've done the racing.
No, and I think the more people that go and get into these sort of events and perhaps go into that haven't had that experience of being up in the mountains and dealing with that sort of weather and dealing with themselves in those sort of conditions, and however experienced you are, 60 miles an hour on a top.
Oh, wow. I remember us all linking arms when we were up on Skiddaw, and then as we moved to the kind of Helvellyn area on leg 2, and it wasn't much fun. Put it that way.
It's not much fun, is it? And you can't. There's no way out.
It's like, in theory, it might be okay, but if you just trip and fall and then you're not moving,
people that've got to come and rescue you.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
Much more about that. I was meant to be doing the maxi race this weekend, 100K, and it was 7,000 meters. But to get my 5 points for UTMB, but I decided not to because I thought that could be easily rerouted if the weather's not right or if the snow's come in, which it could do, and then I wouldn't get my 5 points. So I was like, I'm not sure I'm going to take the risk of doing that. And also, to be honest, big reason I didn't really want to be up that high, that cold, and then so dark on technical terrain. I just felt like I'm not sure that I need to do that right now. Anyway.
We've got a race. We've done it before, and I know friends who are doing it this year, the Tour de Helvellyn. And it's a great route. You know, you're not massively exposed. But a few years they've changed the route when the weather's not been great. But it's in December, and I'm thinking, I just don't want to have a horrible day out.
No, why beat yourself up? Get too old, Gary. We're getting too old. This week we catch up with Sarah Cameron from her bed, her invalid bed where she can't move. She's going to tell you all about it. But here we go. Here's some inspiration from Sarah Cameron.
Hi, Sarah. Welcome to the podcast. How are you? Where are you? Now, we normally ask, have you been for a run today? But I don't think you have. But maybe if you could just tell us a bit about your recovery and maybe why you're not running today.
Yes. Hi, Gary. Hi, Eddie. Thanks so much for inviting me on here for a start. No, you're absolutely right to think that I haven't been running today. I've spent the morning in bed because I recently had a bit of a bike crash. I came off my bike 3 weeks ago today, actually, and I smashed myself up on my left-hand side. So I've got, to be very precise, I've got a periprosthetic fracture of the femur, which is spiralized because I've got a prosthetic hip, and the femur kind of broke around the metal stem of my new hip. I broke my ribs and I broke my elbow on the same side, so I'm kind of stuck. If I didn't have the broken elbow, I'd be able to be a bit more mobile, but the elbow has really scuppered me. It's made me not really be able to use crutches or anything. So yeah, I'm kind of confined to bed a lot of the time. So no running for me. Although it doesn't look too bleak for the future. The last thing the surgeon said to me before he operated on me, he came into the operating theatre just before they gave me the anaesthetic, and he splattered in blood, like someone else's blood. He'd already done 2 surgeries before he did me, and he was like, "Oh, how are you feeling?" And I'm like, "Oh, yes, fine." And he said, "I'm going to go and get changed in a minute, but just before I do this, I want you to know that I'm only going to do this surgery on you if you promise me that you'll run a marathon again one day." So to me, I took that as a very positive sign. So if he thinks I can do it, then I will be running again at some point.
What we should just put in is you were actually recovering. You just had your new hip, hadn't you? And you were just recovering back, getting back on the bike and getting back to some fitness, weren't you, when this bike crash had happened? So is not a recent occurrence that this new hip had been replaced. So you've been in the wars, as my mum would say, but hopefully now. May I suggest Swift in your future?
I have signed up for Zwift, but I haven't had much of a chance to use it. So yeah, you're right. I only had the hip replacement on the 1st of April this year. So I decided to become a cyclist for the summer this year, which it's okay, you know. I think we all prefer running to cycling, but I was so grateful of it because it allowed me to get out there and, you know, just have a bit of fresh air and to actually push myself a bit, which I was completely allowed to do. I was encouraged to do it for my recovery from the hip. And I did a few challenges over the summer, which definitely filled a gap for me, and they all went really well. And I had this crash just 2 kilometers away from my house, and I was going really slowly, so it was just really unlucky, just a really freak thing. And yeah, it just goes to show that you can go and do a big adventure and be pretty safe, but then something can happen just down the road. So yeah, so I've spent a lot of this year recovering from things.
Can you tell our listeners a little bit about your running history? I was having a look back and looking at all the different races that you've done, and you've done a real diverse set of distances, length, track, trail. Can you tell us a little bit about your running history and how you're so good on both the trail and the track? This doesn't seem fair.
Well, I think a lot of people have got a similar story to me these days, that they didn't enjoy sport when they were younger, in fact hated sport when they were at school, and they got into it in later life. So I started running just before my 40th birthday, that typical midlife crisis kind of stuff, and I don't know, it just sort of went from there. A friend challenged me to enter a triathlon with her, but she had to drop out at the last minute. But I trained really hard for it because I didn't want to disgrace myself on the day, and I went ahead and did it anyway, even though she pulled out, and it went really well. And I thought, you know, okay, I'm actually quite enjoying this, but the thing that I enjoy most is the running. So I decided to take that further and ended up sort of entering a marathon pretty soon afterwards, and realizing that the further I went, the less, well, I could sort of, I'm not very fast, but I can maintain speed over a longer distance.
Yeah.
You know, I think is not atypical for someone of my age, and for women in general. So I don't think I was ever going to shine over the really short distances, but I learned that I'd only start warming up after 10k, and the longer the better. I'd go for training runs for 2-3 hours, and the first hour I'd feel absolutely dreadful, and then suddenly I'd start to feel quite good after 2 hours, and I never sort of felt worse. So I could always see that my future was in the longer stuff. And I did a couple of marathons, but then I sort of went straight into ultra really, and what I enjoyed the most was being on the trails. So I definitely focused on that first. And I just wanted to do everything. I did mountain races. I did sort of the equivalent of fell races over here. And I didn't do very much on the road or the track, but occasionally I'd do something that was really mountainous, like the TDS. And it would drive me crazy because I think I'm a runner really, not a hiker. And I don't like doing those kilometers that last for 45 minutes. And you look at your watch and you just haven't gone anywhere. And, you know, so I find it a bit frustrating sometimes if there's too much hiking in a race. So I'd have like a rebound reaction to some of the really mountainous stuff, and I'd enter a road race or something on the flat after that just to get my legs turning over. I think, yeah, I like this too, and I could never decide what I liked most. And I didn't even really know that 24-hour racing was a thing. I didn't know what it was because I'd mainly focused on the trails. And but occasionally I'd see something on the calendar, a 24-hour race, you know, what is that? And eventually I started looking into it at the beginning of 2019. And I thought, oh, you know, I think I'm just going to have a go at it. I feel sure that I could probably run continuously for 24 hours. I think it might suit me. And so I ended up entering the open race at Albi, which was, it was hosting the 24-hour World Championships that year. Yeah. And I managed to get a place alongside that in the open race. So I got to kind of experience the World Championships, but without actually being in it, which was quite a nice way to do it because there was no pressure on me. Nobody cared what I was doing. And I ended up just chugging around and having a really good race. And I managed to make the standard for Team GB, and I managed to get into the team for that, for the Europeans for the next year. But then COVID came along, and that's probably another story, because yes, that all got cancelled.
Did you have any aspirations at all before that race? Did you know about the qualifying distance or anything, or it was just it literally all happened on the day?
Well, I had an idea, but I wasn't sure I could make it. I was hoping to do about 200 kilometers, which I was fairly sure I could do based on some 100-mile performances that I'd done in the past. But again, they'd always been really hilly, so it was quite hard to equate it. But I was fairly sure I could probably make 200. And at the time, the qualifying distance was 212. And so once I got over 200 during the run, I thought, oh, I think maybe I might make it. And yeah, I made it to 215.8. The 0.8's really important.
Oh, I didn't put the 0.8 on the notes. I put 215. I didn't put the 0.8. Sorry. Important.
And what happens then? Then you have the qualifying distance. Do you get an email? Is it quite quick after that for the GB to be in the GB system? Or I'm just curious how that happens.
Yes, well, I got a message asking if I wanted to be added to the squad WhatsApp group, which was a very exciting moment. Yeah. And there's no guarantee that you'll be selected for the team if you're in the squad, but they get the people in who've made the qualifier or who look like they're likely to. And and I was luckily enough to be selected for the Euros, but like I say, they didn't go ahead, unfortunately.
I've done a few races, and they weren't meant to be necessarily 24-hour races. They just took me that long to do them. But from when you're on the start line, and it's a kind of a role flip. I'm just really curious your mindset. I did a cross country the weekend, and I thought I was going to have a panic attack standing on the start line. That was like 6 miles. 24 hours. How would you? What's that like?
Yeah, I would have a panic attack standing on a 6-mile cross country. That's my worst nightmare. Seriously, I'd so much rather have 24 hours ahead of me, because it's like a long, slow suffer rather than that horrendous, asphyxiating suffer when you're trying to push yourself. No, I'd much rather do a longer one. I just think you take it in chunks, like any race, really. You take it even lap by lap, because the laps at Albi were 1.3k long. And I got to know each tiny little bit of the course. I'd know, the drunken Irishmen who were shouting when I went past. You could do a little tour of the rugby pitch. Then you'd try to keep to the racing line where it got a bit zigzaggy. The toilets, it was very important to know where they were. And then you sort of do a lap of the track, which was almost like the glory bit. And then you get to your table. And each lap just went by like that. And I'd be thinking, okay, drunk men, rugby pitch, racing line. And it went really quickly. At one point, I thought, I'm going to reward myself with some music here, about 12 hours in. And I put the music on, and I just didn't want it. It was just interfering with what was going on in my head. So I switched it off almost straight away. But before I gave my phone back to my kids who were crewing for me, I took a little fangirl video of Courtney DeWalter, who was running on the track next to me.
If you could have stomached the music, what would it have been, your playlist?
Extremely eclectic. It's quite embarrassing to tell you, but I would definitely have some songs from the shows on there.
That's not embarrassing. That's encouraged. That's encouraged.
I've listened to the whole of Les Miserables sometimes on a long run. Just don't know, something about it.
Wow.
Yeah, I love a bit of Les Mis, bit of revolution.
Absolutely. One Day More. I know.
One Day More. Yeah.
My daughter went to see Rocky Horror Picture Show the other day, so that'd be quite a good one.
I thoroughly approve. Yes. And a bit of 80s pop maybe, and some indie stuff. It's a real mix, and I'd have it on shuffle, so I'd never know what was coming next. And I'd hope that my Christmas music wouldn't come on as well.
Yes, I have that problem. Or something that I've got a little girl who obviously the Disney has the Disney classics. Actually, she's just discovered Little Mix, which I'm like, oh no. And that will come. That's not too bad. I can run to that. So what's the prognosis? Are you going to be able to get back into 24-hour running? Is that the long-term aim?
Well, I think before this little accident, perhaps, yes. And there was talk of me possibly being a reserve at the World Championships this year if it was going to be safe for me to do it, but I wouldn't have been able to. I just wasn't recovered enough. And I think I'm just going to have to let it go now, really. I mean, it's still there in the back of my mind because I feel like I've missed out a bit. But I think the sensible thing is probably not to have that as a goal. So I'm thinking probably I'd like to try to do a marathon at some point, and an ultra, I'm not sure, maybe, but I'll let it come to me. If it's the right thing to do, then brilliant. But I don't want to take any risks. I think I've become sensible, and I want to do what's best for my long-term health, because if I smash this hip up now, then I get put into a granny hip, which you can't really do sport with. So yeah, it's a bit more of a risk now. But I think maybe, but marathons, I absolutely love marathons, and if I just had to do one more race in my life, I would pick a marathon anyway if I had the choice out of anything, because I think they're so pure. You know, you've got to really push yourself hard to do well in a marathon, and you know, it's just, the distance is just perfect, isn't it? So I think that would
tell Gary all this, because he's sweating about London Marathon this week and whining.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I think there's nothing, you know, you can go along and along and along and along, and you can run really fast, but there's something about the marathon that is literally, you're just on that line of control for as long as you can. And if you just stray a little bit too far over the line, the last 6 mile isn't going to be very pretty. It's amazing distance, yeah. And if you crack it, it's quite a euphoric day. It's an awesome event, and
you can really diversify the training as well for a marathon, can't you? You can do so many different sessions that then they can be like really hard sessions, they can be not so hard sessions. You can really do a good mix. If you're training for a 5 or 10k, you have to push that envelope like really hard a lot, don't you? But I think with a marathon, you can put a lot of trail running in there too, can't you? And you can do all sorts of different things. So
I love it. You can't hide. I love the fact you can't hide. There's no way, like 5k, 10k, and all those distances, you just can't necessarily blame the weather, blame the terrain. It is just, there's benchmarks, and you put yourself out there for everyone to see. It's a phenomenal.
That's why I don't want to do it. That's why I stick in the trail. Much easier. Let's go a little bit away from the running now. And Sarah and I, for people that don't know, both coach. We both have some of our clients through Centurion coaching, and that's how I sort of first met you, though I knew all about you from your race results. Can you tell us a little bit about your pathway now into coaching? What made you start coaching? How's it going? What you're learning, etc.?
Of course. So as soon as I started running, because I don't do anything by halves, I just became a student of the sport, and I wanted to know absolutely everything that I possibly could about running. So I ordered all the books, I listened to all the podcasts.
Love it.
I was just obsessed with it. That's kind of what I do. I just get obsessed with things. And so I did a few little courses as well in sort of exercise physiology, nutrition, just as self-improvement things, really. But as I started to get better and better results, people would ask me if I'd help them with their training plans, and they'd ask me for advice. And I realised that I really quite enjoyed giving advice. It's probably listening to my own voice. So it started off really unofficial, and just with friends of friends, or even family. And I was just ticking along like that for a few years until I first, and then when I got onto the GB 24-hour squad, I started being coached by Robbie Britton. And it was about that same time when I started to have the problems with my hips. And he said to me, you know, have you ever thought about coaching? And I said that I had, and that I'd been doing it unofficially for a while. And he said, oh, well, you know, how about instead of me coaching you for running, because you can't really run so much at the moment, how about I coach you for cycling, and I mentor you for being a coach at the same time? So he's been there to hold my hand through the whole process. And he's really helped me have the confidence to turn it into more of a full-time job. So he's been absolutely brilliant, and he sets me little tasks to do as well. And I think the thing that he's helped me improve on the most is to try to draw the answers out of my athletes rather than to tell them everything myself. So to a more of a Socratic form of coaching, really, and to keep asking them questions and to get them to give me all their, rather than me just sitting there preaching at them. And fostering a proper relationship with them. And it's probably only 50% about the running, which I'm sure you'd agree, Eddie. The rest of it's sort of building a relationship with them and finding out who their nearest and dearest are, finding out what's happening in their life, just being interested in them as people. And the running is kind of almost secondary to that.
Have you had any like sort of really big challenges that you might have come across with coaching, or perhaps some sort of a glory story that you'd like to share that
it might sound quite a humble story, but there's someone here I've been coaching right from the start of my unofficial coaching. He's had faith in me right from back then. He's stuck with me the whole time. And he's always been a decent runner. Perhaps has never quite fulfilled his potential, but he had decent PBs over all the distances. And I've just been helping him sort of shave 10 seconds, 30 seconds off his shorter distance. And last year we went through 10K half marathon with him, and we managed to shave time off for all of those, even though he already had quite good times. And to me, that was so rewarding. And it's because we've been working with each other for a long time as well. So if I know him really well, I know how hard I can push him. And he was delighted with it, because he's in his late 40s, and to feel that he could still get PBs, it was really rewarding. And the difficult times, probably it had to be the whole time through COVID, because everyone was just so disappointed with all their races being cancelled. And to keep them motivated during that time, it was hard at times, because they just have cancellation after cancellation. And that was pretty tough. But we generally managed to work out some kind of personal challenge or an FKT instead, just to keep everybody going. So that was tough. And it's always hard when people get injured as well. And it's hard for me to know how to best support them. I'm used to sort of putting things on their training plan every single day. And when that kind of goes, I run out of little challenges to set them. And I feel like I'm not being a good coach to them. So that's challenging for me as well.
Well, one thing I've really thought about from working with you, Sarah, and hearing about you talk about your clients is, and I think is absolutely the fundamental part of being a run coach, is that you care, you really care, and you really invest. And as you said, it's very little about the plan and the writing the plan. That's the easy bit, because it's, as most runners would know, Gary does it himself, just downloads it off the internet. And the writing, the running plan, it's actually the managing the plan, and then managing people and managing their expectations. And there's so many hats as a coach that you have to put on every day. You're the mentor, you're the mum, you're the dad, sometimes you're the teacher, but sometimes you're the listener, and sometimes you're being educated yourself when you work with people, and then you go, oh, you work like that didn't work, what I did there. And it's such a process, and that you're so open to that. So I really, and I think as well, with you going forward in the next few years, it might be you're going to have the time and the mental capacity to really develop yourself as a coach. So it'd be really exciting to see some projects perhaps you take on, and people sign up here.
But do you have an overarching philosophy, though? I read so many different books over the years, and people's training approach seems to be quite different. Quality sessions, the way you've got, like, I think, is it Lydia, they're very volume based. Do you lean towards anything in particular, or is literally you gauge it per athlete?
No, I do lean towards a polarized approach for sure. The kind of 80-20 idea. So I like easy runs to be really easy and hard runs to be really hard. I think that's the way of most modern coaching, really. It's nothing groundbreaking. But when I say easy runs easy, if I go for a long run, I'm thinking, where's the coffee shop? When am I going to have a start? When I'll have sandwiches. I have absolutely no problem with dawdling on my long runs, and I quite like my coaching clients to do the same, and to just really, really chill on their long runs, and their easy runs just pottering along like barely more than a walking pace sometimes. It just makes it really enjoyable. I know it takes a long time though, which is a bit of an issue, but if you can stop worrying about how long it's going to take you and just kind of enjoy it, then I think it does help you work a bit harder on the days when there's a tough session. I really like hill work. Everybody always has loads of hill work, and with technique work in there as well. And I like periodization as well as the polarization. So I think it's really important to have seasons in your running. You just can't stay fit for the whole year round. It would be suicide to try. And I think you need to have a lot of downtime. I think you need to respect your recovery from your races, especially when you're going over 50 miles. If you do 100 miles, then I think you need to really respect that recovery.
Yeah.
And
I wish that when clients signed up for races, I might actually put this in my plan, might put this in a contract for clients, is that when they do like 100 miles or anything mega, their mega goal, they have to then promise me that they will take 2 weeks completely off running, and then at least another 2 to 4 weeks of recovery. And this is one big thing that I feel at the moment, especially after COVID, and people have the periodization has disappeared because people have done 800 races this year and they don't know whether it's September or March really. And people have kind of lost the fact that the race is you almost need to reset and go back and go, okay, you need to now have a bit of time off running. But how do you encourage your athletes to not to run? Because us as runners are addicts. Gary's smiling.
I think it's one of the hardest things, actually. I try to sort of give them other things instead, send them off on a bike ride or a swim or yoga, just to fulfill that urge to do something. And I agree with you about the 2 weeks doing nothing, sitting on the sofa, eating crisps. well, obviously, like moving around a bit, around a bit with recovery. But yeah, I think people are very keen to start running again too soon. And I've got one article that I send everybody if they're that way inclined, which talks about how the nervous system reacts to something like 100 miler, and how actually that can take much longer than the physical body to recover. And that normally does the trick, because they can see that there's things going on behind the scenes that they weren't realized about. So yeah, I normally threaten them with that article.
Articles incoming. They'll see you typing on WhatsApp. Oh no, it's coming. I think as well, though, often you physically recover because also you're mega fit often going into these big challenges. And most people, sort of like 80% of people physically, if they haven't come out with an injury or like toenails that are hanging off, they physically recover within a couple of weeks. And then they're like, I'm fine. I feel fine. But yeah, it's the everything else that's going on. It's not just your quad, hamstrings and your major muscle groups. It's
like an underlying fatigue almost. I remember the 100 milers I've done. Yeah, physically you think I'm okay. And then maybe you start running again, then you realize, you know what, I'm not quite ready yet.
Especially if you go like over half an hour. That's always my personal recovery. It's like half an hour, I feel okay. And then almost the minute it goes past a sort of 5K, I go, oh no, I need another biscuit. I'm going to have to go home.
But I treat that downtime, for me personally, it's the taper, the downtime. It's all part of it. If you're like, say, a lifetime athlete, I don't see that as a negative from sitting there smashing the Jaffa cakes for 2 weeks. It's all part of it, and you need that rest to get ready to go again. It's you can't rush it.
I always try and say it's like a little thank you body, thank you family. Okay, mum will be present for a few weeks, less washing, thank you, recover. And then because I always want to be the old granny going up the mountain with a backpack and a poles. Yeah. I remember when I can still get up this.
I love it.
Exactly. And it's also really important to take the time to reflect on what you've just achieved as well, especially if your race has gone really well. If you move on to the next thing and start training again too soon, you're kind of almost doing yourself a disservice, because you need to actually say, oh, look what I did. I trained really hard for that. It went really well. And, I deserve a bit of a pat on the back. I need to reflect on that before moving on to the next thing.
Yeah, enjoy. It's definitely great advice. Now, Eddie and I talk quite a bit about women in running. Do you have any thoughts on how to get more women on the start line? How maybe you could encourage it, or if races could do something different?
I think if anybody's unsure or nervous, they need to have a go at a timed event or something on a loop for their first ultra, something like a 6 hour, because there's no pressure of finishing last in something like that. Everybody starts and finishes at the same time, so you don't have to worry about aid stations staying open for you or like having the sweeper behind you. Everybody finishes after 6 hours.
Yeah.
You've got your food there on the table. There's probably an official aid station. Okay, it might not be the most scenic route, but you can find ones that are in nature on the trails as well as just on a track or something, and it's just a really safe environment, and you probably like chat with people as well, because you're kind of all running on the same course, and rather than being spread out over a long point-to-point race, then you can actually have a bit of camaraderie with the people around you, see what's going on, and enjoy watching the faster people go past you, and enjoy sort of being with your tribe at whatever level that might be. So I think if women are unsure about it, then a timed event it's just perfect.
I like that suggestion, because I remember when I first started ultra running and I was like, hang on, I'm all by myself. I was like, oh, it's not quite the same as other races, because you start, and after like 10K, 10 miles, it's your own journey, and you might swap places with a few people, but it is a lonely sport. Yeah. And I wonder if that might be a barrier that women think, all right, I'm a bit uncomfortable being out on the trails by myself. I might get lost, it might be dark. So that's a really good idea, that a timed event, if you're nervous about those sort of things. What do you think are the other barriers that because we read these race results and we're like, well, there were 350 men and there were 40 women. Yeah. For instance, the Dragon's Back that we just saw, and there were 40 women starters. What do you think it is?
I think women have a bigger sort of fear of failure in some ways than men. They're less likely to overestimate their abilities. So they think, well, there's absolutely no way that I can do that. Whereas I think men sort of more likely to think, oh, do you know what? Why can't I do that? And I'm just going to give it a crack, which is why men are bad at pacing as well sometimes, because they tend to overestimate their abilities, and women are the opposite. So I think it's fear of failure, fear of being last. And also, I know you talked on the podcast last week a bit about this, but women do have the life admin as well. They worry about that a bit more, because for example, when my husband trained and did an Ironman, he'd just sort of go off in his own little time bubble, and he kind of wouldn't fit into family life so much. Whereas if I'm training for a 100-miler, I'll get up at 4 a.m. and make sure I'm back from my long run, and I'm kind of more aware of fitting into family life. Whereas I think women have that as more of a pressure. I think men are more likely to be focused on what they have to do and their training, and they have less of that mummy guilt about going out and interfering. I'm not being mean on all men. I know it's a massive generalization, but it's just what I've observed.
Yeah, but I'm sure there's a little bit of that in a lot of things. And I know my husband, he's great. He'll, if he wants to train for something, he'll be totally focused and he'll train for it. But then he also can come back and be like, I'm gonna chill out and have a bath and watch the football. And then, but when I come in from a long run, it's like, mummy, they did this, and it's instantly back into like family life, because us as the mums, and that's just our role, and that's fine, we've created that, we kind of like we know what's happening, we know where so and so's socks are, we know who does what on a Saturday afternoon, and that's just the way that my life and majority, I think, of women's family life evolves. But I would say to women who are unsure about putting themselves on an ultra starting line, because perhaps they feel, I've not done the training. Honestly, with ultra running, Sarah, I'm sure you agree, 85% of it is mental. So if you've got a decent level of jogging ability and you can eat something as you're jogging, just start and see what happens. Start slow, keep eating, keep smiling.
Yeah, exactly. And just walk in training as well. It really is not a failure. It's just sensible. Again, I have no problem walking in my training on any length run, really. If I want to have a little walk, I'll have a walk. I think people sort of put that, it's kind of an ego thing as well. I think you think I'm not a runner if I walk during my runs, but it's just absolutely not true. I love me a little walk.
I've been really trying to walk faster recently, because I realized that I can't do it. I just dawdle. So I've been like really trying to like see if I can match the French trail runners' walking ability. And it's definitely a learned art. If you can walk fast for a long time, you can do amazing things.
It's interesting what you said earlier about women with the potential fear of failure and men thinking they can do things. I'm sure I read a study once where it was basically a job application, and pretty much all of the men applicants were potentially underqualified and thought they could do the job, while it was the complete flip for the women. They were overqualified and maybe a bit kind of anxious as if they could do the job. It's amazing psychology what is going on there.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and I think it probably it's exactly the same in sport. Yeah, but I think times are changing though. You do see more women on the start lines these days, and especially with Centurion, because I think there's such a lovely community there in their races. I think they have more women than in a lot of other events, because they've created a bit of a nurturing environment there with the online community, and people kind of know each other a bit. So yeah. I think in that kind of environment, women feel a bit more safe and a bit less worried about failing.
The last thing I think also we should say is just find a mate as well. Find a mate to go training with, and find a mate to sign up with a race, because just like when Gary and I do podcast interviews, we much prefer doing them together because we get a bit nervous. When we're interviewing people, we're like, it's all so much better when we just do it together. But if you can find a friend that you can go on that start line with and share the journey, it takes away a lot of those worries, a lot of those concerns, somebody to laugh and giggle with, maybe cry a little bit. But I would say do that. Find something that scares you a little bit, but not too much. But yeah, having a training partner or a mate to do a race with makes such a difference. So Sarah, what does the rest of this year hold for you, sort of coaching wise? Going to build, I guess, no, you're looking kind of like maybe a year before you can start thinking about, if you were going to run a marathon, which one would it be?
Gosh, that's a good question. I haven't actually done that many marathons, and I haven't done my local marathon at Toulouse. So maybe I'd have to do that one. It's meant to be quite a fast course. I think it's got 8 meters of elevation, which just it seems crazy. So so maybe I'll have to go and do that one. I don't think it's the most interesting course, but as it's so close to home, I think maybe Toulouse. And coaching, I'm just, again, I keep on trying to improve myself, but I think that's always a good thing. So reading everything that comes my way, and just hoping to pass that on to my athletes, and it's all great. I mean, I really love it.
We should say now, before we start our quick 5 questions, that Sarah lives in France, as you probably just guessed from saying to do. Can I quickly ask, what brought you to France? How long have you lived in France for?
We moved over in 2003, and we lived in Chamonix for a year. But the goal was always we wanted to buy a vineyard and start making wine, which we did. And we did that for about 15 years, but it was such hard work with the young family. And my husband's always carried on commuting to work in the UK as well. So it just all became a bit much. So we actually stopped doing that after a while. But that's what brought us here in the first place. But for the last few years, we haven't been doing that. And to be honest, it's just been a bit of a relief. And we've had more time to do other things. So it was for the vineyard, but it is no more.
Wasn't there a terrible frost this year, early frost or something, so that it was all up in arms that the wine was going to be off this year? Don't know the right word to you.
No, it's been a really difficult year for everybody. There was a lot of loss early on in the year to frost, and then the harvest's been complicated as well. That's going on now still, and they've had so much rain that the grapes are the size of plums, but they don't taste of anything. They're just really watery. So I think everybody needs a bit of sun now to get rid of some of that water and to concentrate the flavour into the grapes.
So you're a bit of a wine. Can I say snob?
No, not at all. I have a trained palate, and I did a wine course in England, and I've worked on a few other vineyards. So I have a trained palate, but I am not a snob. I buy €3 bottles of wine from the supermarket. I mean, I know what I like, but as long as it's I prefer white actually, and you can get a quaffable bottle of white for between €3 and €4 here. So it's a bonus of living in France for sure.
Will you stay in France now, do you think, for your foreseeable future?
I think it's going to depend on what the kids want to do. but yes, we've got no plans to move back. And if I'm going to become a cyclist again, which is possible, then it's much easier to cycle over here. There are far fewer cars on the roads, and it's just, I think in the UK it's a bit too congested for cyclists, really. I don't think it's that safe, she says, having just had a crash here. Yeah, I think we'll stay. Unless the kids decide to go to university in England and settle over there, then we'd have to have a rethink, but no plans at the moment.
Well, that leads on to that I really enjoyed making up, my French quickfire questions.
Are they in French?
Gary, do you want me to translate them for you into French?
Well, you could, yeah, you could do it. Well, I was going to ask first. If you want to do the quick fire, I'll ask first. If our listeners want to reach out and connect with you, is there a best platform? Are you on Instagram?
I'm a bit of a dinosaur and I tend to favour Facebook, but yes, I have got an Instagram account as well. It's Cake Wine Running. And
are you taking coaching clients? Is there somewhere our listeners could head to?
Yeah, through Centurion. You can find me on the Centurion site. Yeah.
Right, quick fire.
No pressure. Macron's listening.
I've just been doing my citizenship course, Sarah, to get my to do my test. I know everything about the French political system. I mean, and my French teacher keeps telling me that, no, you know how this works in England, and I'm like, no. I don't know how it works in England, let alone in France. Quite enjoying it. Anyway, we digressed.
Now you're not going to ask me who Marianne is, are you, or things like that?
I could have. No, super easy. Best thing about living in France?
It's such a cliche, but I've got to say the weather. Yeah, I mean, we get so many good days here. Very, very rarely you have to have your bike on the trainer because it's just too bad to go outside. I can get out most of the year. So yeah, cliche, but true.
Very important to British people, the weather. Baguette or croissant?
Oh, definitely baguette, like a crunchy one. Not every baguette, but a very specific type of baguette, ever so slightly overcooked with, like a very, very crispy kind of, I want to say skin, but that's not the right one. Crispy shell, but soft in the middle. Yeah.
That is my perfect. My husband likes it all crispy, but there's too much moisture than required for the eating of that baguette. So we actually have to get 2 different baguettes on a Saturday. Oh. Beret or beanie?
Definitely beanie. I've got loads of beanies, and I've got ones that I can put my ponytail through as well.
Important. So important. Mm-hmm. You probably don't need it though where you live. You don't live in one half the year like I do. It's just a fashion. It's just fashion to lose fashion. Winter or summer? I think I know the answer to this one.
Yeah, it's going to have to be summer. It is. If you'd asked me autumn or spring, I'd have found that harder to choose. But yeah, I'm going to have to go summer. Just again for getting outside on my bike and things.
Do you miss the cold winters that you had in Chamonix, or is that not your vibe?
No, again, I've sort of evolved away from that because I used to love skiing and ski touring, but I think I've become more of a wuss as I've got older, and now the cold does really put me off. We do still go on skiing holidays every year, but I do less and less. I kind of spend more time either hiking in the snow or sitting in the apartment when everyone else skis, just sort of watching Netflix. And it's just the cold that puts me off. You know, I still enjoy the sport, but I'm just a wuss.
I think definitely as I got older, the cold, and I always find when December comes, the initial cold phase we get, I'm like, I can't do it. It's too cold. I can't survive. But do you sort of harden yourself off to it? But definitely as I get older, and the kid this morning, I was like, kids, do you want a coat for school? And they're like, no. Why would we want coats? And I'm like, coat, hat, it's freezing.
Head torches as well soon.
Superhuman power.
I think it would be to never need to go to the toilet during a race.
What a strength.
Tea breaks.
Can you imagine that in a 24-hour, if you knew that you had a stomach of steel and you were never going to need to pee?
Yeah,
exactly. In the last sort of 6 hours of Albi, I was going every 2.5 laps or so. So I definitely say it's the ability to not have to pee.
I'd like that on every day because honestly,
exactly. Yeah.
What a great, that's the best one.
That's a good one. I could go a night without going to the toilet. That'd be
Well,
great.
you're an old man, Gary. That's afraid that's part of thing.
After a few beers, when you playing fast and loose with cups of tea before bed, or like that extra pint.
Can't do it anymore, Sarah. Can't do it.
When you go,
Yeah.
I don't know, if this is a thing that's unique to men, a few beers, I get synced with other people in the pub and we end up going to the toilet at the same time. Our bladders are synced up.
That's really awkward, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, on that note, Sarah, we wish you the speediest but healthiest recovery. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast when
thanks,
only
Sarah.
half of you is working. I hope there's someone around to make you a cup of tea now after all that talking.
Hey.
Yeah. And we look forward to following your journey back, and we will be your biggest cheerleaders at Toulouse Marathon when that happens, but no rush.
It's been really good fun, and good luck for London, Gary. I can't
Thank
wait
you
to
very
hear all
much.
about it.
We'll see. I've got my backpack and my phone and everything on me. It's
Oh, the whining, Sarah, the whining about carrying a backpack.
This is an issue this year, isn't it? Because you don't have the drop bag or something. Is that right?
well, a bit more London Marathon politics. They've not even sent me the bag I'm supposed to take to the expo, so I don't know where that is. We'll see, but it'll be fine. I'm not going to complain anymore. All positivity now.
Oh, we've talked to Sarah. We're going to be positive. We've got nothing to be not positive about.
That's right. Queen of positivity.
That was
Thank you so
wonderful.
much,
Thanks.
Sarah.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Hope you enjoyed that interview, everybody. I think we could all do the bit of Sarah's fairy dust, Eddie. She was super
I
positive.
tell you what, if I was in bed like her without being able to move, one, my kids would not be as angelic as her sound. They'd be taunting me, and I would definitely not be as positive. I would be raging.
Yeah, I don't think I could cope with that amount of time on the sidelines. That would be tricky.
We're a few weeks down the line now, and I think her rehab is getting better and better. And we hope to see you back out on that marathon in the next few years. Keep you posted on her comeback.
Coming races.
The I love the Lulworth Cove Trail Running Challenge, set on the stunning Jurassic Coast, over the world famous Durdle Door. You ever been down there, Gary?
No.
Durdle Door landmark. Trail run not to be missed.
I know.
4 distances: 10K, half marathon, and ultra, all sorts. I love that the races are offering all these sorts of different events.
Yes.
It'll be hilly but beautiful. Good luck if you're doing that one.
Then we've got the Ullswater Way Challenge. Now that is a way marked footpath, so you can just go and walk around Ullswater. You don't have to do it as a race. And I just seen Eddie earlier. I love a body of water, anything water, and miniature train. That's my next favorite thing. But yeah, it's such a lovely, especially for I live in East Durham, Pooley Bridge and Ullswater is my nearest lake. So many a time spent around there. And it's hilly. My goodness me, it is hilly, but it's not like you're going to the tops like, say, O'Manaconis or anything like that. So it's a real pleasant challenge. And good luck, everybody. I've not checked the forecast, but fingers crossed. It's kind for everybody. All right, then. What you got come up, Eddie? Following week, more leg explosions, more mice urinating on your fruit and veg.
I'm not urinating on my fruit and veg. That was the mouse. I reckon it's kind of like the last 2 weeks now before the taper. I like a really decent taper before 100 miler. I like to, because it's hard to get the taper right, because obviously it's very individual, but I like to really have like 2.5 weeks of starting to creep down, so that when I get to the 100, I haven't got anything in my legs. They're fresh. And
is that your coach's philosophy too? Does he do that?
Well, I'll do what I want, and he'll just We will just go with it. We haven't done a 100-miler yet, and he's been busy at Templars, going out and winning all these massive international races.
He had an Instagram takeover, didn't he, as well? I saw.
So we haven't got. We'll just work through like the next 10 days, and then we will look at how we're going to do the taper. But that's how I like to. A really big race. Mentally, I really need it as well to kind of get rid of all that junk of all the sessions and juggling everything, and just to get focused, see myself being strong. Because I don't know about you, but in the last few weeks before 100-miler, I feel like I couldn't run it. I feel like no way can I do this. No way.
Same every race, doesn't it? Really, every distance you question it.
You go, I can't do that. So I've got 3 more big runs to do, and I'm doing 1 this week, and then doing 2 next week, and about a couple more big sessions. And I
love it when you feel like you actually get some time during the taper. I still think it's such a valid part of the whole process. But you think, well, I've got like 5 extra hours a week that I didn't have 3 weeks ago. It's because your volume's reduced so much. It's great.
And a bit more, and like I said, a bit more headspace, that suddenly the fog lifts slightly of the training. So not quite there yet, but the end is nigh. Like I'm starting to, won't do that. Thank God I won't do that session again. God, I won't do that.
Yeah, you're ticking them down. I think it's great.
Ticking them down, whereas when you're in the middle of it, you're like, oh God, I can see that session is on my plan another 3 times. Holy macaron. But the difference is incredible. Like between even 2 weeks, like I think a lot of the sessions I do as well is confidence, because I'm still not the amount of climbing and stuff. It's not, I sometimes still doesn't feel natural to me that how much I run uphill I have to do. So the difference in the sessions is still massive. I'm still really improving in them, but I'm not sure how much of that is fitness and how much is actually confidence in my own ability. So I've got some big, next week is huge, but do not fear, listeners. I have booked sports clubs. Oh, you just got to do it, haven't you? You just got to do it. I can't do this. I can't do this and have the kids at home. So you're going.
I've got loads of confidence in you, Eddie. I think you're going to do amazing.
Yeah, the sweetest. I've got, and I'm doing the next 10 days also. It was all about wearing my head torch, because half of it is going to be freezing, pitch dark. So I started that this week. Love my Neo Petzl. Put that on, and the dogs hate it. They get caught. They're like deer in the headlight. So you shine the headlight and they just stand there. They're like, what the hell is coming from
what is that?
head? This massive light. But it does sometimes react to them moving, and then it drops out. I'm like, no.
Head torches are awesome these days. The light they emit.
The light is amazing, and you can pretty much. You do have to. I'm going to really practice the next couple of weeks with it, because I remember that. I remember each year how crap you are when you start with it, and then you slowly, your eye does get better. It's a bit more tiring, isn't it? Because you do have to focus on the trail a bit more. But I'm going to do my long run with it, and do a mixture of terrain as well to practice. Bit of rocks, bit of road, bit of leaves, bit of who knows what.
Make sure there's no poo under the leaves. That's a tricky one at this time of year.
Cow poo around here.
Oh yeah.
What have you got on?
We've got cross country again on Saturday, and we cannot take our foot off the gas. If we want to stay top of the
Surge field. Do you put bows in your hair and stuff?
The war paint, you see that sometimes in people's cheeks. We're only 3rd division, and that is the bottom division. We're in the bottom, it sounds kind of lofty at the top of the league.
3rd division does sound quite good. So let's just go with that.
The 3rd division's massive. There's like all the other teams are in there. But we do flirt with promotion occasionally, and we have been promoted, but we really struggle. Because in the other leagues, if you don't turn out a full team, it really damages you. You get there pretty much the maximum points. And that is that. But yes, we just need to get 6 out and score quite well. I'm quite, I'd love to move up to the medium pack as a runner, but as a slow pack runner, I score pretty good because I'm probably in the top section of the slow pack runners. So I do quite well for Sedgefield. I've scored twice. So we've got a couple of fast pack runners, but we just need to get people, get team out, and then I think we'll do okay. And I touch a good time on the moors. I fancy another trip over there. So if the weather is okay, and I'm not feeling too battered from Saturday, I might head down to the moors again.
Competition time, the moment you've all been waiting for. Some people have been waiting for this. 2 weeks we've been running this, and quite mosh, reading through everybody's medal pictures and the stories behind the medals. I wish we were just saying before, we wish we could give everybody
Wow.
Oh, we should send you all Chia Charge bars, but go and buy them. But such great stories, and just because you're not picked doesn't mean we don't love them. So do you want to do your favourite one first, Gary?
Well, my favourite is Melanie Horan. Her favourite medal is buried with the dad's ashes, and it was the Liverpool to Manchester Ultra. Her dad's from Liverpool and her mum is from Manchester, and he died the day she ran the race. Yeah, wow. And, you know, as she said in a post, he would have been impressed. So that is really emotional, actually.
Yeah, amazing. And what a lovely thought. I bet she has that he's got her medal on up in heaven. It definitely deserves some Chia Charge flapjacks for that one. I chose Sarah Fuller. Go and see this picture. She is finishing the winter spine, covered in blood, sweat, and lots of tears. And she was an emotional wreck after seeing her kids after 6 days of proper suffering. We both chose big, well, people know now, don't they, listening to us? They tugged on our heartstrings there, both Sarah and Melanie. I'm talking because Gary can't talk because he's crying.
That got me that.
Send us your details, Melanie and Sarah. Send us either via Instagram or Facebook, and we will get to you sent out a box of delicious, the new mini vegan and gluten-free flapjacks. Thank you, everybody. Thanks to everybody who entered that competition. There'll be another one. Don't worry. If you've got any ideas of a good competition, send us a message on Facebook. I think the photo ones are brilliant because
it was a wonderful competition.
It was all wonderful. Thanks for suggesting it, Mike. Thanks for Gary.
He had a last-minute entry, Mike, but he didn't do it.
Not quite there, Gary. Next time. Right. If you like the show, please like, share, subscribe, and follow. Gary wants some more 5-star reviews.
Yeah,
we have to have a weekly. Check our podcast, go in the right direction. We need some more 5-star reviews to keep
if you want to shout out, head over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review, basically.
Revenge your vegan flapjacks. Thank you so much to Chia Charge for sponsoring the show. I'm Eddie Sutton.
And I'm Gary Thwaites.
And let's run to the hills.